Hello and welcome back to Raquel Teaches Code. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to create an external CSS style sheet so you can apply styles to a web page. So let's get started. So here is the sample web page. Okay, and just so you have an idea what it looks like, this is what it looks like. Okay. But this is the file for the sample web page. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an external style sheet. I'm going to link it, and then I'm going to insert some styles so that they can be applied to this web page. Okay. So there are two parts to connecting and using an external style sheet with a web page. The first part is that you actually want to create the external style sheet file, and then you want to link it to the HTML document, and then you can go from there. So the first thing we're going to do, we're in Visual Studio Code, we're going to create an additional file in our project folder for this style sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click this first icon to create a new file, and I'm going to create a style sheet file. Style sheets always have the file extension of .css. So typically they're called styles, but you can call it whatever you like as long as it has the style sheet extension, which is CSS. Okay, so we have that there. So, and note that it's in the same project, in the same folder as the other files for the project. I'm going to go back to the HTML file, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this style sheet to this HTML document. And the way that we do that is in the head section of the HTML document. Okay, so to do that, we have to use what's called the link element. All right, and so we type the word link, we type the word rel. All right, and for rel, this attribute is always going to have the value of style sheet. Okay, and then the second part of this link element that has to be included is called the href attribute. And the href attribute is always going to be set to the file name of the CSS file. So in our case here, it's just going to be styles.css. If you're working with Visual Studio Code and the file is in the folder, it will provide a list of suggestions if it sees a CSS file in the folder. And if it doesn't, it's the right one, you can just click on it and insert it. Okay, and then we're going to put the closing angle bracket there. So that is how the style sheet gets connected or linked to the HTML document. This is necessary in order for them to recognize each other and for the content and the styles to work together. All right, and so making sure that those changes are saved. So now we can go back to the style sheet and we can start creating some styles to apply to this page. One thing I want you to note in this example before I start creating the styles is that I'm going to be creating a style for an element, and I'm also going to be creating a style for something that is tagged with an ID. Okay, so you'll notice here that in the paragraph element, I did add an ID of the name text. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the style sheet and start creating styles that can apply to elements of this page. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a style for the heading element, and I'm just going to change its color. So the way that we create the style rules is that we indicate the selector, and then we create the different styles. So in this case, it's the H1 element that we're going to be styling. We're going to type H1, a space, and then a set of curly braces. And then it's within these curly braces that all the different styles are defined. So in this case, the style we're going to use is called color. Okay, and the color that I'm going to give it is green. You can type the word green, or if you know the color code for the color, you can use that as well. I'm just going to type it just to keep our example brief. Okay, and I'm going to save that change. So now I'm going to go back to the web page in the browser, and I'm going to make sure that this style is being applied as I expected. You know, this is how we test as we work through our web page styles and development. So I'm going to go back to the browser, and when I refresh here, because that's how you view changes, you have to refresh the browser. When I refresh, I should see a change in the color for the H1 element. So let's see if that happens. Okay, and now we see that the heading element did change to the color green. Great. So now let's go back to the code editor, because now I want to show you how you can create a style for an element that has an ID on it. So remember that in the HTML document, I gave an ID of the name text to the paragraph element, that first paragraph element. So I'm going to apply a style using the ID. All right. So when it comes to IDs, we use a number sign or pound sign, and then we use ID that we created, right? So in this case, it's text. And then we again create some curly braces to start adding the styles. Okay, and so in this case, I'm just going to use color again. And in this, for the paragraph, I'm just going to give it a color of red, and I'm going to end it with a semicolon. All the rules always have to end with a semicolon. I'm going to save the changes to my style sheet. I'm going to go back to the browser now and refresh again, and hopefully I'll see the change. And the change I expect is that this paragraph should be a color red. So let's see what's happening. All right, great. And it looks like it worked because it applied the red color to the paragraph. And so that is how you create styles in the style sheet. When you want to create a style for something with a class is always defined with a period first, right? So let's say, for example, we have a bunch of images in here, and I just wanted to style all the images the same way. That's what a class is for. I could apply a class to each one of the images and then go from there. And then in the style sheet, I start the class. So if I give it a class name, for example, of group, right? I always define the class name beginning with a dot, and then I could do a space, curly braces, and then insert my styles and end them with a semicolon as I did for the other types. Okay, and so that is how you create an external style sheet, and that's how you apply styles to it. And then just remember that whenever you're sending a project, you want to make sure that everything in your folder, including your style sheet, is included when you create that zip file. All right, so that's how you create an external style sheet, and that's how you apply it or link it to an HTML document.